Welcome to the Forsyth Magazines podcast. I'm Brooke Eagle, your host, bringing you the stories of the people shaping our community. From business owners to local leaders, we'll explore their journeys, passions, and lessons learned. Let's dive in. Hey guys, we are back with another podcast episode, and today I have DeWanna, the director at Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center of Forsyth County, and I have Elizabeth, the Chief Assistant District Attorney. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
How are y'all doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Good. I'm so excited to have y'all here. So for listeners who may not be familiar, I want you to tell us just your, I don't want to say elevator pitch because it's not a sell, but like your short and sweet version of what is Bridges to Hope.
Well, Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center, Forsyth County, is a department of Forsyth County government, and we provide resources and services at no cost in one trauma-informed location for individuals and families who've been affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, child maltreatment, elder abuse, and human trafficking. And the purpose of a family justice center in a community is really to reduce homicides, increase victim safety, increase offender accountability, and have easier access for people who need services to get to them, so they don't have to tell their story over and over again to so many people.
Because that has got to be exhausting.
It is exhausting, and it's re-traumatizing.
Yeah, no doubt. So what does it look like for somebody to walk through your doors? And how do you help them in that moment?
So people don't need to have an appointment to come to Bridges to Hope. We're available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And folks can call in and ask some basic questions before they come in, or they can just walk in. Typically, people are looking for information. They may not even know that they're in an abusive situation. They may not understand what services are needed for safety. A lot of times people are coming to this center for something specific. They may be looking to file for an emergency protective order, and that can be done on site. They can meet with an advocate, complete their complaint documents, and also talk to a judge and know before the end of the day if their protective order was granted or denied. They may want to talk to someone from law enforcement. They may want to make a report or follow up on an investigation, and that also would include the district attorney's office, who would be prosecuting criminal cases of domestic violence in Forsyth County. And sometimes people just need resources for survival. They might need to interface with the Department of Social Services for some of the things that they have available, such as child care subsidies or assistance with housing and utilities.
Yeah. So, DeWanna, what got you involved with Bridges to Hope?
Oh, that's a long and involved story. So I've been in this work for over 25 years, and I had an interest in domestic violence when one of the families at a preschool I was working in walked in with a protective order and said, "I'm supposed to give this to you." And I didn't know what it was. I was a preschool teacher and an assistant director, so I had different responsibilities for making sure that the children were safe and what their needs were about. So I was able to kind of assess, even from kids in my preschool class, what was going on, because there definitely were some red flags and signs and signals that I didn't know at the time had to do with domestic violence in the home.
Gosh, it's got to be so rewarding to help people in those situations, but also so hard.
Absolutely. We're talking about 1 in 3 women in her lifetime will be impacted by some sort of interpersonal violence, and about 1 in 4 men.
Wow.
So that's a lot of people who may not have a frame of reference for what's happening to them, or it could have been generational. They may have seen people in their own families and in their support circles who also were experiencing something similar.
And if you grew up around that being the quote unquote norm, it's hard to know that that's not normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, how did you get involved with Bridges to Hope?
Well, I've been a district attorney for quite some time, and was the supervisor of our domestic violence unit since 2012.
Wow.
And as part of that, went to several conferences where I learned about the Family Justice Center model as it was being implemented around the country. And in Forsyth County, we have a domestic violence court that runs 4 out of 5 days a week that just handles domestic violence cases. And there have been a lot of studies done. I think people like to study domestic violence if they're in psychology programs or whatever. Anyway, there's been a lot of studies that show that sort of aggressive early intervention at lower levels of threat makes a big difference in the homicide rate. So we were following that model, and then I learned about the Family Justice Center model, which became Department of Justice recommended it as a nationwide best practice for communities as far as responding to the needs of victims and providing a wraparound support. So I thought it was a great idea, and our community started exploring developing it here. So really, since the start of the thinking process about the Family Justice Center here, I have shared in that and been a big supporter.
Awesome. I love that. I would love for both of y'all to answer this question, but what is one thing that you wish our community kind of understood better about domestic violence and about the resources available?
I think one of the main things that people often ask me is, why don't people just leave? And leaving is not always the answer. In fact, leaving or planning to leave increases the potential for homicide risk for the victim and their children. So if someone is planning to leave and that is their choice, and we empower people to select their own best choice about what to do, we want to make sure that it's safe to do so. And I think that's probably one of the biggest myths. Well, if people wanted to leave, they could, and not understanding the complexity of people's lives that are wrapped up in their jobs and their school and family connections. And sometimes it is very difficult to imagine what life might be like after if there aren't supportive services, and as Elizabeth so eloquently stated, wraparound services to help someone be successful in living their best life.
Yeah.
And that's what Bridges to Hope is all about, is providing whatever needs are available for clients to move from a domestic violence relationship if they decide that's what they want to do.
Yeah. To be blunt, I think it's ignorant for people to say, why don't they just leave? Like, there's just it's so much deeper than that. I watched a very interesting documentary on Hurricane Katrina recently, and same thing. People were saying, well, why didn't everybody just evacuate? And it was just so much deeper than that. And I'm like, people. So anyway, Elizabeth, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, just to piggyback on that, I think what we see is a lot of domestic violence is about control and control of the other person. And so the victim tends to be sort of more isolated from their friends. Maybe the abuser is controlling the finances of the house. And so a lot of times we see, at least in court, people sometimes reluctant to proceed because they have been isolated, they've been a stay-at-home mom, or they've been somebody without a whole lot of support and resources themselves. And if they leave that, or even go forward with a criminal case, they're concerned that they're going to lose access to housing or care for their kids. I remember I had a victim one time whose son was a disabled child, but the child was on the abuser's health insurance. And so they were not wanting to proceed with charges because they were concerned about the health insurance maintaining for their kid, and that was to them the most important.
And that's so heartbreaking.
There's a lot of barriers in that way that prevent people from just up and
just leaving,
hitting the road.
Yeah.
Right. Like people think they should, but it can be frustrating, and it is can sometimes be frustrating for law enforcement, who can feel like they go back over and over to people's houses, and they're like, well, why don't they just go? But there is a lot more to it, and I think that's one reason a family justice center can really make a difference is because it can provide access to financial planning, and safety planning for people, and can talk about the barriers with them. Okay, what do you need to do to be able to help your child still have insurance even if you go, or that type of thing. And people just sometimes don't know where to turn, and
or where to begin.
Exactly, where to begin. And so that's one reason I think the Family Justice Center is a real asset.
So, kind of a tough question here, but if somebody's listening and they have a family member or a friend who they kind of think may be experiencing some sort of domestic violence, A, what are some red flags that that family member or friend could kind of look for, and B, what could you do as a family member or friend to help your friend or family member?
Well, I think some things to look for as far as red flags are the control type of things. So someone who's constantly wanting to check the other person's phone, track, where they are at all times, and maybe beginning to reduce their ability to spend time with friends, or, if they spend time with friends, the other person always has to be there, or that type of thing. If you start noticing that kind of thing, just attempts to isolate the other person, I think those are some red flags. And I'm sure DeWanna will have more to say on that, but I would think one of the biggest things that you can do is just maintain contact and sort of non-judgmental contact, so that the person knows that they can still reach out to you no matter what.
I love that, because the second they start feeling judged, they're not gonna want anything to do with you.
Of course, they love that person, and they're hopeful that, some of the time they're nice, obviously, or they wouldn't have started being with them to begin with.
Sure.
So, it's a difficult situation.
No doubt.
I think also reminding people that they don't deserve what happened to them. It's not their fault, that you are concerned about their safety and the safety of their children. And then asking that person, how can I help and how can I support you? Because that person knows their situation better than those of us on the outside looking in as to what the potential for higher risk might be. So I think just asking, what can I do to support you, can also be very helpful. And then if it's a safe way to do it, to provide a phone number to Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center, which is 336-776-3255, or to a 24-hour crisis line for a victim service provider like Family Services. And their number is 336-723-8125.
Okay.
So there are a number of resources that people can reach out to on behalf of themselves or on behalf of someone else. And of course, there are extreme circumstances where law enforcement might be the best option if it's to that degree. However, when we bring intervention in from the outside, we want to make sure that does not escalate a more serious injury or homicide. So really being careful about when and who to bring in, and allowing that survivor to determine what's best for them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard. So what is a way that everyday people in Forsyth County can support this mission in some way, whether it's financially, whether it's volunteering? What are some options?
Well, one of the things that's available at Bridges to Hope, we want people, when they come in for their initial visit to Bridges to Hope, to be able to leave with something that is helpful to them, that makes them feel good, because they may have gotten a series of no's throughout the day, or a series of no's throughout trying to navigate systems and institutions. And we've established something called Bridges Boutique, and it's a space at the center where people can grab some laundry detergent or lotion or deodorant, toothpaste, some things like that are just helpful to them that they don't have to use their limited resources on. So if people are interested in being a part of that and helping us have those items for clients, then they can contact Bridges to Hope.
Okay. What would be the best way to contact you guys?
To contact us by phone at 336-776-3255.
Okay.
And they can ask for me.
Awesome. I love that. Do you have anything to add about how everyday people in Forsyth County could kind of help support this mission?
Well, pretty much all of the partner agencies use volunteers in some way or another. So if there was a particular partner agency that people were interested in helping with, they could call Bridges to Hope and get some direction. But for example, like one of the partners is the Children's Law Center, and they have advocates that go out and meet with families in high-risk conflict situations to see what's going to be in the best interest of the children. There's just various, all of these agencies, use volunteers in some way.
Okay.
We don't use volunteers at the DA's office, but we appreciate any investment in these nonprofit partners who need help for sure.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a paper that you guys gave me that lists the 16 partner agencies that are under Bridges of Hope, and I'm familiar with most of these. I was surprised to hear we got Next Step Ministries, Parenting Path, the DA's office, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, the Winston-Salem Police Department, Family Services, of course. So it's awesome that our community does have all of these resources.
Also, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to help spread the word about domestic violence, think about what you or your workplace or faith-based organization might do to get the word out. That might include wearing purple or wearing purple ribbons or attending events in the community that further the mission of people who are doing this work.
I love that. Are there any events that you know about that are happening in October that come to mind?
Yes, there will be information on our website with details about that.
Which is it bridgestohope.org?
Yes, it's forsyth.cc/Bridges to Hope.
Forsyth.cc/Bridges to Hope. We'll put that in our show notes so people can click on that and find out about some of the awesome events happening in October. Because I'm sure our listeners would love to help and get involved. Anything else that y'all want to talk about before we wrap things up?
I just want to say thank you to all the partner agencies that are a part of Bridges to Hope, because it's more than any one agency or organization can do to work on domestic violence. It takes all our partner agencies and all the resources and services that they have available to help our communities. So thank you to all our partner agencies, including the District Attorney's Office.
Yeah, it takes a village, that is for sure. You're right about that. One organization could never handle all of this.
And I just want to add that I think sometimes people feel as if there's nothing you can do about domestic violence because it happens behind closed doors and other people don't know what's going on. But if you actually look at the studies that have been done, there is things that can be done. And one of the best ways is early intervention to reduce homicides. So that's what we're trying to do. And this is a nationwide best practice that we're trying to really support here in Forsyth County.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, DeWanna, Elizabeth, it was so nice to talk with you ladies, and I learned so much. We'll definitely direct folks to the website to learn about events happening for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and those phone numbers if they need any of these services or if they would like to volunteer in any way.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
thank you so much. This was a privilege.
Yeah. And as always, you can find Forsyth Mags online at forsythmags.com, and you can find us on social media at Forsyth Mags. And if you have ever enjoyed an episode or if you enjoyed this episode, we would love it so much if you would leave us a rating or a review. And that is a wrap for today. The views and opinions stated on this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Forsyth Magazines Incorporated. Ooh, that's a mouthful.